Whenever you're ready, Sam. Good evening. I will call the school committee meeting of February 13th to order, the time being 6 o'clock. We do not have any presentations this evening, but we will hear from our student representative, Ryan Donovan.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Ennis. I'll start off with sports tonight. The boys basketball team is playing tonight at Millbury, and they have their last game on Wednesday at Northbridge. And the Clark tournament begins this Sunday at 2:45 versus Littleton. For girls basketball, tomorrow is at home versus Millbury, and Thursday is here versus Northbridge, and it's senior night. And next week, the girls will play in at least 2 games at the Blackstone Invitation. For track, the regular season just ended, and we have 2 of the girls that are moving on to the state championship who placed in the Central District Championship, and they are Emily DeWidzik and Jordan Arell. Emily set a record in the 55 hurdles, and they'll be competing in the Division IV championship this Saturday. 3 students from Oxford High School started the Access program with Nichols College 2 weeks ago. To Student Council, we hosted a blood drive on February 1st, and our goal was 41 pints of blood, and we were able to have 56 pints of blood donated. So we definitely reached our goal, and we surpassed it. And if at the next blood drive we do as well as we did, we could qualify for a scholarship sponsored through Bob's Furniture. Our RSVP program that we started a couple weeks ago has been very, very positive. We've got great things coming out of the students. We had our second summit last week, and we're going to be continuing with the third and fourth in the next coming weeks. The Massachusetts Association of Student Councils State Conference will be held at the Resort and Conference Center at Hyannis on March 7th, 8th, and 9th. And we have 16 students and 2 chaperones going to that. And I know they're all looking forward to that. We are now having our annual flower sale starting from now until March 27th. We offer a lot of things. They all come full bloomed, such as like garden planters, hanging baskets, stuff like that. A lot of great flowers. If anyone's interested, they can stop in the main office and ask for Mrs. Spitz. And we'll be doing that until the end of March, and they'll be coming in for Mother's Day. And one last thing from Student Council. As I talked about at the last meeting, we're still making preparations for the Polar Plunge on March 3rd. Going to run into Revere Beach.
Go right ahead. Good luck with that.
If anyone would like to join, we will be taking a bus that day. And anyone that would like to donate, you can donate directly to any of our accounts on the Special Olympics website, and then just follow the links to the Polar Plunge. You have sheets for the Special Olympics basketball team that our school has been doing very well with. This past Saturday, we went to the Special Olympics assessment rounds at the Fay School in Southborough, Mass. And we played 3 games. Our record was 0-3, but everyone did an awesome job. I love being a part of it, and I can't wait until the Olympics in March. And we have a great number of students doing that. And also, we are extending our programs in the spring to a track and field team. And in the summer, we are going to have a bocce team. And then from Commander Maisley, lots from him tonight regarding mostly the drill team. Our young Naval Junior ROTC drill team in color guard did very well at the 4th and final meet of the Southern New England Drill League a couple weeks ago. In one of the tightest final competitions in over a dozen years, our young pirate teams, with over 65% of them first-year students, had their best day of the season. The teams batted 1,000 and delivered a slam dunk finish. Oxford was the only school to earn 8 trophies for all 8 events that they entered for the final meet, including 4 first-place finishes. Over 100 parents, family, and friends traveled to this meet to support our teams, which is the largest that they've ever had. And they were also joined by alumni who still care a lot and remain big supporters. Later at the end of the season awards presentation, later at end of season awards presentations, our Oxford Pirates were named Best School of League Season in 4 of the 8 major events, routinely entered while also placing in 6 of the 8 events. Honors included Best School of the Season for armed and unarmed team inspections, Best School of Season for unarmed exhibition, which was tied with Springfield, and Best Unarmed Color Guard in the league. The teams also placed 2nd and 3rd in 2 additional events. In the final league standings, the Pirates were announced as 2nd place overall in both armed and unarmed divisions, when the teams earned 16 out of 18 possible trophy finishes and 1 individual honor. Sophomore Brian Merritt earned himself an individual trophy as a top 10 finalist for the armed individual competition. Senior Danielle Giard also ended the season as the sole Oxford cadet in 16 years to earn 6 individual medals in 4 meets. And there's a possible additional drill team competition. The unit is looking at a possible short fuse trip this coming weekend to Colts Neck, New Jersey with the Color Guards to compete in a regional Area 4 competition. The trip may also have additional side educational visits to national sites by staying overnight outside Philadelphia for 1 to 2 nights. And possible sites for visiting are Valley Forge, Independence Hall, Liberty Bell Hall, the Constitution Center, and Battleship USS New Jersey, which is now a museum at Camden across the Delaware River from Philadelphia. The unit may have confirmation on this trip later tomorrow as they find out about it. They found out about it late Thursday, and Commander Maisley is still researching options and logistics like travel, support, and more. If this trip doesn't happen, then our teams will practice to go to another Navy-sponsored meet at North Rockland, New York, in the area of the Tappan Zee Bridge on March 23rd. An update from the NJRT Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math, or STEM camps, is that the NJRTC headquarters announced 2 one-week STEM camps being sponsored by NJRTC program this June for eligible junior and sophomore cadets, one in San Diego, California, and the other at Embry-Riddle Air University at Daytona, Florida. NJRTC received good news this morning that from among several hundred nominees sent to the area manager by the 54 schools in our area, 15 primary and 5 alternate cadets were picked for each camp. Oxford NJRTC is pleased to announce that one of our nominees, sophomore Brian Merritt, has been picked as one of the 5 alternates for the Daytona camp. If circumstances permit and a primary nominee drops, Brian will fly free and attend the week-long camp free of charge in mid-June. This is special too, as Brian was picked as a sophomore, and it appears that many of the primary selectees are juniors who will be seniors next year. And just a few more notes, the military ball plans and preparations continue to support the March 3rd event. All administrators and school committee members should have received their invites, and if not, please contact Commander Maisley. There's no word on the rescheduled date for the formal Navy inspection, which is likely in March. Everyone will be notified as soon as they get the date. And the Color Guard was requested to participate again in the Worcester St. Patrick's Day Parade on March 10th and perform on Sunday morning, March 4th, the drill team's favorite day of the year, according to their former art teacher, Mrs. Bryady, at Senator Moore's request for the Polish American Veterans Association of Webster's annual breakfast. And I do have one more thing. Junior Nick Ravelli placed 2nd in the Brain Bee at UMass Amherst.
Wow, very good.
And that's all I have.
Congratulations, Mrs. Ravelli.
I didn't do anything.
Yes, you did. Believe it or not, but yes, you did. Thank you very much, Ryan. We appreciate that. Okay, approval of minutes, please. Let's see. I think everybody has January 9th. We will approve these minutes also. Or don't we have January 9th? Did I make a mistake?
You have January 9th.
Yep, I have them. There we go. Do I have a motion to approve as written?
A motion to approve?
I'll have to take them individually.
January 9th.
Oh, okay.
We're just doing the 9th.
Okay, all right.
No, just the 9th right now. Do I have a second?
Second.
And I'll call for the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Abstain.
And I'll vote yes, 3 affirmative, 1 abstention. Thank you. The executive session minutes, I just have one correction. At the end, we will not be coming out of executive session. That should read, we will not come out of, we will come out of executive session to adjourn, please. These we're going to have to hold. I don't have enough for the vote. January 23rd, regular minutes. Do I have to hold these too? No. I have a motion to approve as written.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. I'll call for the vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. We have 4 affirmative, 1 absent.
23rd.
So I'm sent that day,
The executive session minutes, also on this one, Darcy, we will come out of executive session to adjourn. Do I have a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. Have a second?
Second.
Thank
Sorry.
you. That's all right. Call for the vote, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, 3 affirmative, 1 abstention, 1 absent. And these are okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Next on our agenda is our superintendent's contract. During our discussion of executive session on the 23rd of January, I was directed by the committee to have conversation with our superintendent. We wanted to extend his contract for another 3 years, which we have done through the year 2015, which sounds like far away, but it's really not. It will come quickly. So we have here in front of us his contract for employment. It has no language changes, only a salary change, and that is the only change that you'll see in this document. Do I have any questions or comments in regard to this contract? Do I have a motion to approve as written?
So moved as we get a copy of the final draft.
Oh, you all didn't get one?
I don't have one.
You don't have one? Sorry. Okay. I do have them here for signature. I have 2 here for signature. I thought that you had them before. I'm sorry. Okay. I can get you copies. Actually, maybe I'll be able to get you copies tonight. Yes. If you want to do that, if that's okay? Okay, all right. So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. I'll call for the vote, please.
Yes.
Abstain.
Yes.
3 affirmative, 1 abstention, 1 absent. Congratulations, Mr. Superintendent. You're here till the year of 2015.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee.
And I'm just going to pass those down. Could I think make a copy? Before we start our presentation this evening for the budget, I did want to make one comment before we go into the Italy trip also. I did want to say one thing about, that's not on the agenda, so I'm just going to come out of that line here just for a moment in regard to the No Child Left Behind waiver, which in many aspects, in my opinion, is a very good thing that the Commonwealth no longer has to be handcuffed by this mandate. I think that it's important for us to understand, though, that this does not dismiss the Commonwealth of the accountability of education. My personal hope is that the DESE will continue to remove the barriers that were promoted by No Child Left Behind, and we will continue to engage our students, have quality educators, and the parental support, of course, which we all know is paramount to any successful school district. So in saying that, I think that we should put this on our agenda. I was going to do it during my school committee request, but I changed that up a little bit. I would like this as an agenda topic. I would like to hear from our administrators of how they feel about this and what kind of plans they were going to make in their buildings as far as accountability goes, bringing this district up from a level 3 back up to where it should be, which we're striving for, is to get it up to a 2 and then a 1. I know it's always steps that have to be taken. They have to be, you know, precise and all that, which is fine. But I want the awareness out there that we are going to bring this district back up to the level that it deserves to be at, and we can do it without No Child Left Behind. Mr. Peterson?
I agree with you as far as continuing the study of it with the administrators or whatever, whomever. I just want to caution you, this has not gone away permanently. This is only a temporary reprieve. We don't know what they're going to come back with on us afterward. This is a temporary stay, which Massachusetts was one of them, including our school committee association, has been lobbying extensively to control or curtail this for time being until some of it can be rewritten because of the absorbent expense to all of us and everybody else, and they haven't proved that it's beneficial at this point in time. So this, it's on hold, but we don't know when they will come back at us with it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Anything else from the committee? Okay, thank you. If Ms. Nugent, and I don't want to destroy your name.
Oh, Klimzuk.
Klimzuk. Ms. Klimzuk would come forward. And this is in regard to the Italy trip. You have a request for a one-day extension, if you could tell us why.
Sure. So we head to Italy over April vacation of this year. We returned the 23rd, and through EF Tours, which is the company that we go through, they schedule the departure dates and return dates when they can basically schedule enough schools to defray costs for students. So there were enough people who were able to get the extension that we were moved to return into Boston at 1:20 on Monday, April 23rd. So that would be at the end of the school day, obviously. But because of that extension, the students are able to go, we're going to be able to visit Pompeii, which is going to be out of this world. Like, that's going to be an amazing experience for all the students. So our request is if we could have that extra day given to the students and they understand that if they're given that day, that everyone needs to be in school on Tuesday on time.
Okay. Anything from the superintendent?
Nothing at all.
Thank you. Mr. Peterson?
That one-day extension is a school day then.
Right. That Monday is the Monday that students would return from.
I'm going to be upfront with you. I'm not going to vote to approve it. I don't agree with most of these trips. We're now starting to set a precedent for the elitists, that they can have an extra day off for school where the other kids can't. I'll be upfront with you. I'm not going to vote for it.
Anything else from the committee? Do I have a motion to approve for the additional day that they need to take this trip,
Be coming in.
the extension?
What?
Or any questions?
Question, what
Yeah, go
time will
ahead.
you be coming in?
We
Sunday night?
arrive Monday at 1:20 p.m.
Oh, you're gonna arrive Monday.
That's the additional day they're asking for, is that
Right.
Monday?
So that's the day is Monday. If we arrived Sunday night, then the students would be in school on Monday.
Just a question.
Go ahead.
So the additional day, this is something that the tour company is doing?
Right.
Are they requesting an extra day, or, you know,
No,
is this?
they tell
this is
tell
it?
us.
Yeah, this is it, you know, we're
Well,
gonna do this.
Basically got pushed back.
They literally tell us. They say, "Here you go. You have an extra day."
So it sounds to me that you either go this extra day or, gee, then they can't go, right?
Pretty much. They lose out on the money too for that day. I mean, everything got just pushed back.
Right.
That's what happened. The plane flights and everything just got pushed back.
Mr. Anderson?
This is also gonna be a non-excused day?
It is my understanding that it is an unexcused day.
So they'll be marked absent. The students will be marked absent.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Wells.
May I approach?
Yes, please.
First and foremost, the vast majority of the students that will be going on this trip, in all reality, don't have an attendance problem. So for it to be an unexcused day certainly isn't going to be a problem. the depth and the breadth of the worldly awareness that they're going to be exposed to will be second to none. Over the course of a year, since last year, they have been making monthly payments so that people that normally could not afford it have been afforded the opportunity to do that. In fairness to these two ladies, but certainly not the company, they're looking to try to do the best they can to get the best package that they can. So apparently coming back became an issue. So they gave them an additional day in Pompeii. I would only suggest that we have students that go on field trips from all schools for an entire day. As you consider adding an additional day, we do have an awful lot of field trips, pre-K through 12, that go out for an entire school day. I think the sacrifice of Pompeii certainly will be educational, but please let me reiterate that by them being absent on the dockets, it's certainly not going to be absent from the educational value that they're going to receive. And I don't think the parents would have an issue with that, quite frankly.
And I have to agree with you on that.
But it's
I
an
think-
amazing trip. I do have just a little
right.
bit of knowledge about Italy, and they're going to some amazing places. They'll be able to touch history.
Yes. And I do agree with you. I think that the willingness of at least these two teachers to take on this kind of a venture is a great learning experience for the students. So I am in favor of it. I have no problem with the additional day. I don't know if anyone has any more comments or questions in regard to the additional day. They're just asking for one day. And like you said, these are students that are not in any jeopardy of taking advantage of absenteeism. Anything else from the committee? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. And I'll call for the vote, please.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
And I vote yes. We have 3 affirmative, 1 no, and 1 absent. We wish you safe travels. Thank you
Thanks.
very much.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
We'd like to hear from the students when you come back.
Okay, of course.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, this is the night where we all work so hard to make sure that we can provide the best we can for the students here in this community. I know that the superintendent has been working on his budget presentation. We have all received our budget manuals and have been going through the numbers. Of course, we will be presenting, I'm hoping, to the Board of Selectmen to receive their input, comments, and questions they may have. I will hand it over to you, Mr. Superintendent, to present the budget in its draft form. If I can remind everyone, this is a draft. It is a work in progress. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mrs. Ennis, members of the committee, to the administrative team and the public. This budget is our first attempt at requesting our fiscal year 13 school budget. As everyone knows, the process is not timed for good decision-making on either the school or the town side. We are, as a matter of fact, working strictly off of the governor's budget, which was given out a couple of weeks back. The House now debates it, then it goes to the House Ways and Means, then it goes to the Senate, then it goes to a joint committee, and it finally goes then to the governor for his approval. Towns are, in many instances, requesting to move their town meetings back from first week of May to the end of June to accommodate the lateness of the decision-making, and it is unfortunate that we have to operate in this manner, but that is the rule. Those are the rules, so we will do our best. Again, we are working from the revenue projections generated by the town's financial team, and looking at those numbers with scrutiny so that we understand what funding may be available, and then therefore what we would try and request so that the budget is something that is workable for everybody, as we are one town with one single budget. I want to let folks watching at home know that the budget, the draft budget, will be available at central office. Mr. Matthew and I welcome anyone to make an appointment, stop in, spend as much or as little time as you would like to go through the budget, so that if you would like a clearer understanding, we are certainly available. We will also have a copy in the library as well. And by state law, we must maintain the one copy at central office. And as everyone knows by now, central office is on the top floor of the community center, and our hours are 8 to 4:30, although there is someone there before and after most days. I encourage faculty, staff, and everyone in town to become familiar with what we are asking for, to become familiar with what we need, to please make an informed decision at town meeting. The committee has the budget books. I also do have a brief, and I do mean brief, PowerPoint for everybody, and I wanted to thank all of the administrative team for being here tonight. My Valentine's Day shopping will just have to wait one more day. I would like to read the district summary, as has grown to be my custom, and it is in the front page of the budget book, dated today, February 13th, 2012. The good news is we have made it through 3 very difficult budget cycles. The bad news is we have had to reduce staff and programs to survive the past 3 years. We have reduced our offerings by eliminating shop, business, and French at the high school, and art and French at the middle school. We have reduced staff, both at the custodial level as well as building secretaries. We have not filled teaching positions when retirements or leave of absences have occurred, and these have resulted in larger class sizes at the elementary level and certainly reduced coverage at our middle school and high school. The staff that does remain has had no raises from July 2008 to July 2011, and we know that that has been a similar time frame for many municipal employees in our state. We are at a crossroads in delivering quality education to our students here in Oxford, and the town must decide where the priorities are. This does not mean we pit one group against another. It means that all groups make informed decisions based on fact, not inconclusive rhetoric, and that we all mutually agree on a balanced delivery of services that serves our entire population, and that includes our 2,000-plus students. Our student demographics excuse me, are changing as the economic slowdown has taken its toll on jobs, housing, and families throughout Worcester County. This has resulted in a more transient population with fewer resources to meet day-to-day obligations. Our families headed by a single parent are increasing rapidly, as is our low-income student population. The Oxford Public Schools proudly educates all students. That is our mission. Unlike other forms of education available today, we do not discard students when they fail or encourage them to transfer when they struggle. Rather, the Oxford Public School community embraces all students and works together to improve student achievement and give all students their best chance for success. We are grateful for the voters that approved the Oxford Middle School renovation project to ensure that the building will serve the town well for another generation, as well as the appropriation to renovate the community center to allow central administration offices to move from Sigourney Street to a clean and efficient new space directly behind 351 Main. Work will begin on the Oxford Middle School this summer, and central offices finally moved early in January. Both of these projects are integral to providing proper resources to the district to serve the educational community for many years to come. And a big thanks to all who recognize the need and the value of these endeavors. As some may have heard at the Board of Selectmen meeting last Tuesday, February 7th, the school department allocation increased due to an increase in Chapter 70, the primary funding source the state uses to provide for public education in the Commonwealth. Our Chapter 70 amount did increase because of an inflation factor of 3.65% and an increase in low-income support. For the past several budget cycles, the town has informally agreed to allocate to the school budget unrestricted general government aid, formerly known as lottery aid. This amount did help the school budget meet obligations in the past several years. The understanding has been that if this amount is reduced, the school budget will be adjusted accordingly. It does seem unfair that just because our Chapter 70 funding has increased, that this agreement might be rescinded. The fact remains that we have not funded our schools at a proper level for many years. One needs only to look at the number of staff that were in this very building when it opened in 2002. We have 20% fewer faculty in this building today, 10 years later, teaching fewer courses to a similar number of students. We do not offer enough diversity in our electives and do not offer enough rigor through our advanced placement offerings. Many in the town will remember when the advanced placement offerings went down to just about zero several years back. The administrative team has identified 10 positions that are currently needed to meet the educational requirements of our students. These positions are not nice-to-haves. They are what the district needs to improve our student outcomes, to meet all mandates and laws, and to allow us to remain a competitive option for our students and their families. The Oxford Public Schools should be able to offer what is needed to give our students the opportunities to be successful upon graduation. As many know, the job market is changing very rapidly. And jobs that were available have disappeared, and jobs that were not identified on anyone's radar several years ago are cropping up. However, they need not only a high school diploma, but further training. We are proud of our district. We have much to point to as our strengths. We only want a chance to improve and meet the challenges of the 21st century. It is with conviction that I support the current school budget number of $14,966,149. This is only the first pass at this exercise known as building and approving a budget. The timing, we know, does not favor municipalities. How obviously, if that Chapter 70 amount is reduced in the subsequent budget, we would have to adjust accordingly. However, the opposite should also hold true. So we are still waiting what happens at the state level. For now, the best information is what has been put forth in the governor's budget, and because of the calendar, that is all we have to construct our draft budget. The amount proposed, the $14,966,000, would allow flexibility as we do not know what our full contractual obligations are. All of our labor contracts are being negotiated this spring. These contracts cover over 80% of all school employees, and salaries, we know, make up over 80% of almost every school budget. We will provide updated information as it becomes available, so all can make an informed decision at town meeting on Wednesday, May 2nd. It is important for us to advocate for our children, so we meet our obligation to provide all of our students with the very best education, so all students have a chance to believe, achieve, and succeed. As you'll notice, the rest of the budget book follows the format that we have been using. There is a budget summary which shows a 4.43% increase, which matches to the initial town's revenue projection of $14,966,000. It does show an additional amount of $634,192. We would expect that that number would go up or down based upon the workings of the budget at the state level and how they ultimately fund Chapter 70. But I cannot stress it enough that the agreement that allows us to receive the unrestricted general government aid, that informal formula has worked over the past several years, and I would hope that that would still stay in place. As you can see on the very next page, the revenue budget of FY13 shows a total town expenditure of $33,497,977. And this also includes our school choice sending tuition, our charter school sending tuition, as well as our Bay Path tuitions. And just so the community knows, we spend about $1.8 million on those forms of education, as well as our, this past year, $15.4 million of total operating. So I'd like to go through quickly a very brief PowerPoint and then return to this if there are any questions. And we can certainly delve into this as much or as little as the committee would like. And certainly, I think we have everyone here that could answer questions. So without further ado, let me adjourn over here. My thanks to Mr. Trahan, as always, for providing the expertise. Mrs. S., I'm just going to borrow your mic.
Sure.
Support directors are urging me to. Is that showing up on TV?
As a quick overview to this budget presentation, we will have a couple of slides on the narrative, some brief descriptions of our budget drivers, followed by summary recommendations of the department, which are located in the draft binders, which certainly I cannot stress enough to the town to please stop by central office if we can answer any questions regarding the school budget. We will certainly be happy to. A brief budget history of where we've been over the last 10 years, and that seems to be a very convenient point because Oxford High School opened 10 years ago in our 2002 year. And then an interesting slide at the very end. This FY13 budget is not nearly as challenging in many ways as the last 3 years, which saw us deal with a huge economic downturn. It's interesting that since July 1st, now that we intake our students for central registration, we have a lot of information on the students that come to us. We've registered 189 new students since July 1st. We've had 208 withdraw during the same period. So we do have a more transient population, and this has been documented by studies from the Rennie Center at Harvard to Mass Taxpayers with Michael Widmer. Much of our population, due to the economic downturn, is much more transient. And it has been a very, very detailed job for our staff to make sure that we have folks actually with proper residency in Oxford. We know that more of our students are coming from single-parent families. We also know that our low-income students are increasing, which is reflected in our Chapter 70 report. There's a common misconception out there that the schools have survived the last 3 years without any cuts. And I know that we all know what other departments have had to bear. And we have all shared in the lack of revenue over the last several years. But please be clear, we have suffered as well along with the rest of the town. We have cut support staff. We try and maintain our buildings with fewer staff. We have not replaced positions due to retirements and leave of absences. And we have made some very painful cuts, as the administrative team can attest to make sure that we meet the financial obligations imposed upon us. We also know that we cannot recover everything in 1 year. But we do know that we need to compete not only with the laws and the mandates, but with other forms of education. Our students have lots of options. And if they want to study robotics or environmental science, they can't study it in Oxford. They need to go to Bay Path. We do need to add back in staff and programs so that our students can compete in today's world. That is fact. We cannot continue on the trajectory that we have been on. And as you'll see in the next couple of slides, we have been on quite a trajectory. We are at a crossroads, and the town needs to decide at what level they want to support the schools, their schools, our students. I think that certainly one of my goals from the committee has been to reach out more and more to make sure that folks know all of the good things that go on in our schools. And I am reaching out to everybody watching to please become informed as to at what level you want your schools to provide the education for our students. Do we want a bare bones district that will continue to lose students to the competition because they can offer what they want, we can't? Do we not care about our students who depend upon us to do the right thing? We need challenging programs. We have much to be proud of in this district. I do not want to minimize that. We have good things going on in every building, in every program. And I am proud of all the hard work that we have done to get us through the last several years. We do need more rigor in our curriculum, more electives in our upper grades, and we do need to reduce class size. We also need to reach out to our newest parents, because we are getting students coming to us at age 5 who are already a year or 2 or 3 behind in their reading. And we know this from the assessments that we do. We also have some students that are a year or 2 or 3 ahead when they come to us. So imagine the challenge for our kindergarten and first and second grade teachers to teach everybody across a 4 or 5 year achievement span. So obviously, we need to re-emphasize and do things differently for our early childhood education and learning. Our students need to be fluent at every step of their development. We cannot get them at age 5 and expect to be able to meet and get all of our students to achieve the opportunities that they have in front of them. Something that Mrs. Ennis has been very vocal about, and I think everybody who touches school finance would agree that the Chapter 7, the foundation budget formula that is used to determine the amounts of funding that every school and every town must have is outmoded and outdated and ineffective. It was designed as part of Ed Reform in 1993, and some of the assumptions in there are quite difficult to believe in 2012 and 2013. And it is estimated by people far smarter than me that we're about $2 billion short in the state in order to finance that foundation budget at current levels. And if folks remember their utility bills in 1993, they probably aren't the same today. And they're probably, in some cases, making more than they made in 1993. And so those metrics have not been updated in quite a while. The other piece that is very interesting is that funding standalone districts like our town has is much more difficult than regional school districts, vocational schools, or charter schools. The funding mechanisms are different. They have much more flexibility to meet and match resources to need on a year-to-year basis. And so not only do we have to meet our obligations with a rather, probably the strictest form of financing, we also willingly and gladly, as is our moral obligation, take all students. If a student is struggling or failing in other options, they are then asked to leave, and they come back to us. So while the playing field is not level, it is a job that all of us have signed on for, and we will do what it takes to provide all of our students with the very best opportunity and the very best education that we can. We have some budget drivers that we do need to talk about. As I had mentioned before, all of our labor contracts are in negotiations. So we don't even know what our obligations will be, our final obligations as of July 1st. We must continue to invest in technology. We have rolled out the iParent platform to middle school and high school, and I think that has been met with much success. And I would like to think that we could roll that out to our elementary schools as well going forward. There is a huge sea change going on in public education right now with technology. I know everyone's heard about all the districts that want iPads for every student. I'm not quite sure if we're going to be there next year. However, one thing I am sure of is that all textbooks now have had the software written by the biggest textbook companies with Mr. Apple. So iBooks are here, and iBooks are not going away. So that is something that we need to figure out over the next year or two as to where we go with technology. As all of us know who have younger children at home, our children learn much differently than we used to learn. They can do a lot of things simultaneously. And so we need to continue to invest in technology. Now, that does not mean that we don't get away from the basics that are the building blocks of education. And certainly we know that fluency in literacy and reading is the number one single biggest predictor and determinant for how well a student is going to do. The administrative team is reading an interesting book about a district much larger than us but very similar in demographic and where they found themselves with test scores and student achievement, student assessment, and outcomes. It's so simple, you almost walk by it. And that is that if a child can't read at grade level when they're 5, 6, and 7, it's much harder to catch them up. And those are the students that are at risk as they go through our system. Because anyone who has looked at a math problem knows there's more words in that problem than there are numbers. And so it is incumbent on us to make sure that our students have that basic building block called reading. We know that we are losing external grant funding. Most notably, the NCLB grants are decreasing each year. That seems to be going, unless something magical happens in this fall's elections, I don't see any of that changing. And that is the same gridlock and logjam and lack of will that we have seen over the last 5 years that has not reauthorized the main law that governs education. and that is the Elementary Secondary Education Act of 1965 that Mr. Peterson and I remember well, which morphed into No Child Left Behind in 2002. But that is the law that governs, and that has not been, they're supposed to be reauthorized every 5 years. That has not been touched at the federal level. And quite the contrary, it seems that those in charge of making policy and governing us have shied away from funding education properly at the federal level. One only needs to look at how we fund special ed. That law was put into place in 1975, and the federal government was going to take and cover 40% of that cost. They have never exceeded 22% since then. So I could go on for a while about how we don't fund public education at the federal level. But that's for another chapter. We know that we need to restore as many teaching positions and programs as quickly as possible. We certainly aren't going to do it all in 1 or 2 years because the dollars involved are just too big. This also goes back to that genesis of what is driving this budget discussion. What do we want as a town for our students? You know, we know about the 600 and 700 folks that work for the town. But we also have over 2,000 students that depend upon us to make sure that we deliver the best we can. I know that because the school budget is the biggest budget, there's always that thought that there's a lot of waste in there, and there's a lot of money in there they're not telling us about, and there's a lot of things that I know that I could do better in how to spend that money. Well, certainly we started back in '06 with the relamping of the middle school and a lot of the gymnasiums and the other buildings, and we have continued that, Mr. Matthew working with Mr. Dones on other forms of energy conservation. And we continue to look at ways to reduce our utility expenditure. We have looked at what the limits, what the standards are for how many folks it needs to take to clean so many square feet. Our custodial staff is stretched. We ask them to clean almost 400,000 square feet of building every night. We don't have enough staff. Secretaries and custodians are the most important people in a building to maintain the safety and security of our kids in that building, our staff that works in that building, and the visitors and the parents that come and go. And yet, those are the two areas that we have cut dramatically in the last several years. We also know that we have cut whole programs out of our curriculum offerings. We don't have art at the middle school. And the naysayers say, well, if you don't test art, you shouldn't need to have art. Well, that's not what public education is about. One kid's art is another student's athletics. And one kid's music is another student's math. So it is important that we don't lose sight of all of the things that we need to keep our students energetic, motivated, and moving forward. Yeah, I was talking with Mr. Wells before this meeting, and there may be 3 or 4 students that get into Ivy League schools from this class. Now, that's a big-time credit to those students and to their families and to everybody that's had a hand in their education over the last 12 or 13 years. But we need to strive for better and for more for all of our students. It's so important that I am available, that we talk, that we engage all of our staff, all of our faculty that live in this town, that we are available for our PTOs, for our parents, and for folks that are taxpayers with no children in the district. So that folks know, one, what's in the budget, and two, can make their own determination as to at what level we should fund education in the town of Oxford. Again, you can see here FY11, FY12, FY13 proposed with a difference over FY12. Now, this is the number, 14,966,149, that we arrived at because that's what the town's revenue projections showed. That is our town's contribution plus Chapter 70 plus the unrestricted general government aid money. Obviously, that can go up or can go down between now and town meeting. For those that think that that's too much money, we could easily restore what we need to the tune of about an additional $700,000 on top of that. I don't think the town has the ability to fund at schools at that level. But I sure would like to see us come very close to this number. We can round it to 15 million if we'd like. Don't forget, on top of that is also transportation, which is included outside of the operating, but is still part of the operating costs of running this district. This year we were at 15.4 million. Millbury was at 17.8 million. With 100 students less than we have. So, as you can tell here, we had ARA funding that ran out in FY11 that came from 09 and 10. And as you see here on this next slide, for those that have been in town for 10 years or more, these numbers will be very familiar. The year this building opened, which was a tough year, the operating budget was 12.2 million. Now, if you look at where the operating budget is currently this year, at 14.3, that represents a 17% increase over these last 10 years. So roughly, if you had allocated that evenly, it would be about a 1.7% increase. That's not a lot of money. We know that our students require more expensive support. From our special ed students to our low-income students to the general population that, for whatever the reasons, are not as motivated to see what they can get from their 12 or 13 years with us. Obviously, you can see we were flat in 03. We dipped in 04. We still didn't recover until 07, the level that we funded our schools in 02. As a matter of fact, you can see the percent of increase and decrease, and 1.7% across the 10 years gets us to the 17% increase. And these are the actual operating numbers as voted by the town. Now, when you layer in that history along with an average increase of 1.7%, you can see where we stumbled. You can see where we lost students to other options. You can see exactly what happened. Because from 02 to 07, there was about a $4 million difference here, gap, in what we could have, should have, and would have had. Now, granted, if everyone remembers, 03 and 04 were very difficult recessionary years at the state level. So there was not a lot of money then. But the bottom line is that none of us should be happy with an operating budget of $14.3 million if we want to improve our students' outcomes and opportunities and educational experience, given the fact that those factory jobs that could have supported a family a generation ago are long gone. And the jobs that are out there now, most of them weren't invented a generation ago. So not only is it incumbent on our students to get a high school diploma, they also need to know what else they need to study to be successful. The Globe, a few weeks back, ran a terrific study based on FY09 family income statistics. And it showed that if you dropped out of high school, the average family in the state in 2009 had a median income of $37,000 a year. With a diploma, with a high school diploma, the average median income was $65,000, a rather large jump. And then obviously, they broke it down into 2 years of college, 4 years of college, and advanced degrees. But if you take that over a 40-year working career, $37,000 comes in at about $1.4 million. $65,000 over a 40-year working career comes in just shy of $3 million. So I would ask our students, what would you rather earn when you go out into the workforce? 1.4 or 3? Or if you can get to an advanced degree, you can earn almost $5 million. That's average median incomes from 2009, all families, Massachusetts. So it is very, very important that all of us look at the numbers and the need and our responsibility and find out where all of those intersect. I'd like to go in and look at some of these numbers in a little more detail. If there are specific questions, I believe we have some time that we can answer them. Obviously, this is purely based on one set of numbers so far, and that's the governor's budget and the town's initial revenue projections. And we know that there is an awful lot of things in play over the next several weeks and months. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee?
None yet.
I have a couple, I guess. Just wondering, we have a pretty significant increase at Barton School. Could you explain that to us, please?
I will give it my best, and then if Mr. Matthew can help me out. There was a couple of factors in play there. One was we reconfigured Barton and Chafee and opened that configuration. This is now the second year. Some of the dollars that were allocated are now just being reassigned so that they're in the right spot. Also, at Barton, we had a couple of positions due to retirement and leave of absence that were not filled that we need to reinstate for the good of all. So that, I think those are the two factors that.
How many positions
I've
for
had.
that building, please?
I don't have a count off the top of my head. I can, however, tell you that included in the budget for next year at Clara Barton is the return of one teacher,
What grade? Do we know what grade?
third
Third grade?
grade. And that obviously was money that was taken out of the FY12 budget, but that whole salary is new to the FY13 budget, even though it appeared in previous budgets.
Okay.
But that is one change. Also, at Clara Barton, the superintendent had alluded to some grant reductions. One of the teachers there was previously paid for almost entirely through the grant. That has been reduced by approximately $32,000, $33,000 for next year.
Which grant was that?
That's the teacher quality grant.
And is the grant completely gone now?
No, it's just reduced.
Just reduced? Okay.
Okay. And the last major factor at Clara Barton in terms of increases, and they're primarily in the salary area, were lane and step adjustments
Okay.
that have occurred in FY12.
All right, thank you. I think I'm very concerned, I'm sure the rest of the committee is also, about the young children that are coming in age 5, and I would say probably it's age 5 and up, that are having a hard time with their reading. That's troubling to hear. It's concerning. So curious as to how we are approaching that matter over at Chafee School.
We are in the process, Madam Chair, of addressing that. Obviously, we now have the data, and we need to look at that carefully so that we can match that to our resources to provide strength in our literacy coaching, so that those students can then move along at grade level. And that's work in progress. I think a lot of it is going to depend upon what the final number is, because we have needs at every grade, at every building, at every level. You know, for if we can't get our class sizes back down, then obviously we could use more instructional aids in the classroom in the younger grades. If we can see some result, and I think I want to say that our staff and our faculties are working hard. We just need now to fine-tune and target those so that we are working as efficiently as we can.
Okay. You had mentioned 10 positions. Can you tell us which positions you're looking at to have
Well,
to fulfill?
I think the 10 positions are obviously, again, based upon need. We know we need additional offerings at the high school. We have started a STEM program at the middle school, a project-based curriculum that really touches on technology and engineering, and we would love to be able to add that to the high school. We also took away from the high school many positions to try and get through the last several years, and we need to restore those. We don't have, we're short a phys ed teacher. We would like to replicate that STEM program at the high school. We know we need literacy coaching and another literacy teacher at the elementary buildings, and so we have needs throughout the district and across the district. And you know, I think rather than get too specific, I really want to see where these numbers go, so that then we can start to match the resources to the need. You know, we also know that we are in contract negotiations, and that those dollars are a question mark, and we don't know what they will be until we get to you know, the end of those negotiations, so that we know where our money needs to go.
And if I had asked this afternoon for our enrollment numbers, do you have those for us tonight?
You know, I did, coming from one meeting to the other,
Okay.
I don't have them. I can tell you that the October Sims report gave us a student population of about 2,014, and the numbers obviously dropped off in grades 9 through 12. But I can email those to the committee tomorrow morning.
I'd appreciate that.
That report.
Okay. I'd appreciate that. I had discussion, which I'll comment on with the superintendent. My feeling is that should these numbers remain pretty close to the dollar figure that we're looking at here, my support will be that the direct funding go back into the classroom. And when I say that, I'm not talking about salaries. I'm talking about services that are needed in our classrooms. We know very well, I hear it all the time, that we have students who are not being challenged. We hear that in almost every district. It's not just primarily here in Oxford. We know that there are children here, we're finding out, that can't stay up to their reading level at that age. I'm sure that Mr. Peterson has a very deep, heartfelt connection with the younger children, and I'm sure that that is a statistic he doesn't want to hear. As I said, I am working very closely with our state reps and Senator Moore in regard to the Chapter 70 funding. I get the same speech from all of them. Nobody understands it. No one knows what to do with it. But if we do change it, things could get worse. Well, that doesn't even make sense to me, for an elected official to say that to another elected person, that if we change it, things could be worse. So when you don't understand something, I think it's very important that we all understand what is going on with that formula. We've been invited, the whole committee has been invited to a roundtable event that's Rep. Durant is putting on March 1st at the Public Library in Dudley. And the topic of the evening is the Chapter 70 formula. Mr. Peterson and I went to a, where did we go?
Or School Committee Association meeting.
Yeah, the School Committee Association. It was a night of, we thought, I thought, I think Mr. Peterson thought so too, we were going to have more representatives there from our legislative end, but we didn't. We had Senator Chandler and then two representatives for other state reps. Again, the topic, Chapter 70 funding. So, looking at this budget presentation, I know your feeling, Mr. Superintendent, if we were to get to the 14.9, you would be able to work with this number. I am going to say that I support the budget that you have turned in this evening. I just want everyone to understand that it is important, you know, that we educate our students. The kids in this town deserve what some of the adults that grew up in this town had when they came to school. So in saying that, I am going to continue, and I'm sure that Mr. Peterson, even though he is leaving the committee, he will be very vocal in his attempts of keeping the attention of our state representatives and all of the legislators on top of this Chapter 70. It's time to take some of this burden off the taxpayer, and it's way overdue to take the burden off of the backs of our kids. So in saying that, I do support this budget that you have presented here this evening. I would like to get more information. I do have a few questions I'd like to talk to maybe you and Mr. Matthew in a private setting. I think that that's important, and I'm sure the committee may have some other questions also. So in saying that, I don't know if we want to vote this budget tonight. If we want to wait till public hearing, that's fine. If anyone has any questions or other further comments for the superintendent, please feel free. Mr. Peterson.
I don't have any comments for the superintendent, but for the rest of us as a board, as you know, Chapter 70 has been a craw in all of our hats, and I've been fighting it for years, and finally some of the others have jumped on board. And to say that it could get worse, this was a political pandering for the last 10 years.
I agree with
Quite
that.
frankly, some of them felt because of the, well, I won't use town names, but cities and towns that are heavily invested almost at 90% Chapter 70 to where ours is even half of that at this point in time. So for us in this area that has been fighting to get Chapter 70 changed, we would stand to benefit, but yet a couple of our sister towns around us would lose some. And quite frankly, they don't have the guts. This is where this has all come from. Their vote comes from those populaces, and ours is minuscule compared to some of those that are their actual contributing votes to keep them in office. And they're not about to make this radical change that needs to be since 1993. We've made one small adjustment in 1995 when I sat on the committee, and can't remember the gentleman's name, but I believe it was the superintendent from Wachusett at that time, spearheaded a major drive for Chapter 70, and the legislative committee of the School Committee Association did an extensive study of it. We presented that to the legislature. It never made it out of committee. And we're not going to let up. As Mrs. Ennis said, as I move on from this committee, I'm still going to be sitting on state committees, and I was appointed to one of the Department of Ed's new committees to study Chapter 70 again. So hopefully, they've taken their head out of the sand. They're finally taking a look and realization and going to start to actually look at this thing. It's not going to happen overnight. Everything you know politically takes 5 to 10 years. They don't move. But we are staying on top of them. And as Mrs. Ennis said, I can be quite vocal at times here at the State House or anywhere else. And a lot of times they don't like to see me. I don't really care. But we're not going to let up. And I agree with Mrs. Ennis. She went to the meeting with me the other night, and it was fantastic. And I didn't have to say anything for once. She hammered the heck out of them, all right? And it was good. But the only problem is at that meeting, we had senators and reps that are in our corner, Mrs. Chandler and Harold Naughton's office. Unfortunately, he's in Afghanistan, so his aide or his main person pretty much is running his office, can't really say a lot without going back and consulting with him. They are conversing electronically, and if you notice, a lot of his votes aren't there because he can't vote right now until this electronic voting system is squared away in the state. Eventually, he'll be able to vote even from there. And I was totally disappointed that there weren't more there, and I think they didn't, quite frankly, have the courage to come and face us, even though there are a lot of them in our corner. Mr. Moore had a different engagement, otherwise he'd have been there. He's on our side in education also. So without belaboring that, my only other thing, when you're talking about this, Mrs. Ennis, years ago, it's probably even close to 10 years, when we first burnt the building down over here, I advocated to buy that building and make an early childhood center out of it. But at that time, we had a lot of nursery schools, daycares, and at that time, they were quite engaged with us and actually were preparing better than we are now. We've lost half of those in this community, and I don't think that I think they're more of nursery schools than they are preschool or anything, and I think that's where Oxford is missing. And I would like you to keep in the back of your mind, it still isn't too late. I know economically it is right at this point in time, but in curriculum and in developing the new system here, I had intended to bring it up again. But early childhood education centers are very, very viable at this point in time, and we don't have anything in this area or this district, and we really need something. The police station won out. I didn't, so. But there are other opportunities that we could do something in our building here, and I would like you, Mr. Superintendent, and the rest of the school committee to keep that in the back of your minds for future. And that's all I have on those issues right now. But you will hear from me later on afterward anyway, if I'm here or not. So.
Thank you. The only other thing I'm going to ask is this time around for town meeting, to the superintendent, with your principals, your vice principals, excuse me, that next administrative council, you come together with them for a plan for your PTOs, Friends of Middle School, and your boosters to jump on the bandwagon, so to speak, so that they can enlighten other parents. I think parent-to-parent communication is very important. I know that I talk to parents all the time. I'm in and out of the middle school all the time with events and different things. I try to engage as many as I can. They all know how I feel about, ones that know me, know how I feel about town meeting, how I feel about the budget, how I ask them to get involved. Yes, everybody's busy. You better believe it. Everybody's busy. But there is nothing right now more important than public education in this country, as far as I'm concerned. As I've said before, and I'll say it again, and I'll probably repeat myself over and over and over and over, that education is the root of everything. It is the root of your life. It starts you off when you learn your ABCs and your 1, 2, 3s, when you're learning to walk and talk, you're learning from your parents, then you go into a school environment and you get on top of those stepping stones, and you just, learning is part of your life. You do it every day. It gives you the job you have. So public education in this country needs to come to the top now that we are no longer at war. So the war dollars, it's time for them to come into education. In saying all of that, I'd like next meeting if you could come to us, and maybe your principals could express to us how they would like to promote this. Town meeting is needed. Parents are needed at town meeting. Taxpayers are needed at town meeting. Those that support education in this town, their voices need to be heard. The question does not need to be moved. No one needs to be shut off by our town moderator. Everyone should be heard. I don't care if the line goes out the door of parents that want to be heard. That is what town meeting's for, and I think that maybe this year with Mr. Peterson, Mr. Anderson, Mrs. Ravelli, Mrs. Coonan, and I, none of us here are shy. None of us here don't know people that we can call on the phone and tell them. I don't care how you feel about it, just show up, and if you have something to say, say it. So that's what I'm looking for, I guess, this time around. It's that important right now, and I hope whatever we can do, whatever initiatives we can do, or whatever ideas we can have, we can splash it all over the place. We can put the budget up on the web, we can do all of these things, but if we don't have the impact of people that live in this town that support education, we're flat again. And we're going to remain a District 3 level 3 district, and that doesn't do anything for anybody, especially the kids. So in saying that, I'm hoping that we can do something to move forward and get this campaign going for education. So in saying that, I am done. I don't know if anyone else has anything else to say, comment, questions, nothing? Okay. All right, we will move on. I do have correspondence, as I said. We've all been invited to State Rep Durant's evening on March 1st. He does request an RSVP, if you could do that, to his aide, who is Joe McKenna, at his office. On February 7th, I received a memo from our town clerk, Lori Kelly. Sadly, Mr. Anderson is resigning from his seat here for the school committee. It will be effective the day of town election, which is May 15th. I have responded to the town clerk that I am in receipt of this memo and that she has our permission to add this onto the ballot, that there will be now 3 vacancies. Mr. Anderson's vacancy will be filled for 2 years. We're sorry to see you go, Steve, but we understand why you need to do that. As far as, excuse me, tickle. As far as any other correspondence, that is all I have. Subcommittees. I would like Mrs. Ravelli and Mr. Himmelberger to please continue to work on now. What we have is an advisory committee regarding curriculum. This committee will be parent, teacher, school committee, and it will not be subject to the open meeting law. It will be only an advisory committee. So if you could continue working on that. I think I've had conversation with Mrs. Ravelli and our superintendent. So now we have the proper direction. We didn't mean to step on any toes or anything, but now we have the proper direction from Mass Association of School Committees how to form that. And I don't know if they have a wellness report. No, nothing yet.
We meet 15th.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm
So,
sorry.
Wednesday.
I don't know what day it is right now.
Wellness.
Yeah, I'm getting that old, you're right.
And that's Wednesday the 15th?
15th.
Okay.
Yes, at
All
4
right.
o'clock we meet.
So we'll hear from that committee on the
Next
next
meeting.
meeting. That'd be great. And that's all I have on subcommittees, and I will turn it back over to you, Mr. Himmelberger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had one other quick comment, and thanks to Mrs. Ennis for having our sheriff, Lou Evangelitis, come to speak to our 7th and 8th graders this morning and to our 9th and 10th graders just before noon. He gave a very powerful anti-drug, anti-alcohol message that was timely, topical, very hard-hitting, and I think the kids got a lot out of it. And he used it from his perspective of his inmates at the Worcester County House of Correction. And to listen to those inmates talk about the message to our students, and we are about, I think, the 30th school district that he has visited out of the 57 or 58 in the Worcester County. So he has really done a terrific job, and thanks for setting that up. It was well received, well done, and certainly gives us other options as we go forward to educate our young people on those.
It was an excellent program.
Thank you very much.
This morning. Thank
That's all
you.
I have.
Thank you very much. Mr. Matthew?
Just briefly, the middle school building project was approved back in May at the annual town meeting, and the committee's been working kind of in the background. We do now have an owner's project manager for the project, and will hopefully within the next 2 weeks or so be selecting the designer. And then the real fun can start as we start to price the project and then put things out to bid and get MSBA final approval, et cetera. So that's going on, and, you know, one of the big milestones has been met with the new project manager being on board. The other thing, real briefly, is bus bids will be open this week on Friday, and we'll be able to report to the committee what the results are at the next meeting.
Great. Have you received any yet?
Yeah.
Not yet, okay. All right, great, thank you. Mrs. Ravelli? Anything this evening?
Anything this evening? There's actually way too much this evening. It's a bit overwhelming, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be.
You know, I have many questions regarding the budget, but I think that a lot of them can be explained, so I don't want to belabor this, and I know it's a long process. But there were quite a few line items that went up by, you know, thousands of a %. So I'm sure there's explanations for that, and maybe with the change of schools, that was one of them. But there are other things that I have questions about that I'll be following up. The one committee, policy committee, we hadn't mentioned it, but we're still looking at policies, finding many that are outdated. It's a matter of now collecting what's been done over the past few years. So I'm looking to even Mr. Peterson and yourself for things that have been done recently, so that we're not rewriting policies that were maybe written a year or two ago. And other than that, I hope everybody has a nice, pleasant, restful vacation. Not you over there, you can do some work unpacking, but for the rest of us, we can have a restful vacation. I have nothing more.
Thank you very much. Mr. Anderson?
I just have a couple of things to say. One, I am not dying. I am in good health as far as I know. That's what the blogs got me on, and it was a good year,
You did this
but
right.
like people said, my hands are pretty tied, and that is one reason why I am leaving. That ethics told me last year in February a couple of things I could only not do, and the list got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I can't do the job the way I want to do it. That is the reason why I'm leaving. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Peterson?
Back to your subcommittees, Madam Chair. I don't know if I understood this right or not. We have a schedule pending for next year, Mr. Superintendent, because we have not had the opportunity to meet with you yet. One of it was my setback, and we intended to set up a meeting in the next coming week as far as the study of vacations, the school schedule, and the calendar. We've been lucky this year. We're not going to be any worse off than we were last year, and I think the good Lord's staying with us, and that white stuff's staying away right now. I was supposed to go up north on our normal school vacation. There isn't even any snow in New Hampshire, Vermont, so let's keep it that way right now, all right?
Very little.
So, to Mr. Superintendent, through the chair, where do we stand and what are we going to do with this right now?
Go ahead.
Through the chair to Mr. Peterson, the administrative team has looked at next year's schedule for the first time. We have taken our first pass at it. We do have a little more discussion to take place tomorrow. I would expect that we would bring our recommendation to the committee probably on the next meeting on the 27th of February, and for the committee's digestion, and then we can talk some more and have that in place then for hopefully early in April, which is typically when we do have the schedule set for the following year.
I understand it, but will we be able to meet prior to our next school committee meeting also?
Yep.
All right.
Absolutely.
We'll have to let you know and figure out a date that's compatible, Mr. Anderson, all right?
Yes.
All right, half of mine were answered earlier, thanks to Mr. Matthew. You mentioned the bus contract, Mr. Matthew. I'll tell you what, I hope they're the not lowest bidder because I'm really disillusioned with them. We had 9 incidences in the last month alone of unmarked buses. 2 of them are more critical at this point, and with our spring athletic season coming, it's going to get worse. We were at a district meet Saturday. Couldn't even find our bus. Didn't know what it was because every bus out there was Worcester school buses. And it wasn't just Oxford looking for their bus. It's not fair to the coaches or the kids because all it takes is one kid to run around to one bus and one to the other bus, and you have chaos. You have coaches looking for their athletes that took forever to get that bus loaded and out of Fitchburg. I'm really unhappy with this bus company. They came in and they kind of smoked us earlier in the year, I believe, and I'm going to be honest with you. I think they smoked us all year. We've had a lot of problems. Bus number 9 particularly is clearly unmarked. Now, today, I don't know if somebody got to them or what, but they, it looks like they took a magic marker again and wrote Oxford on it somewhere, right? I understand that we are only allowed X-type buses, certain quality buses, and we get somebody's leftovers because of the way the contract is written. But I don't think we should take second fiddle to athletic events or anything else, especially now with the spring coming. And I understand our buses will be on the routes because I've been there before. So they may have to send another bus. And I also have another complaint that I'm hearing from the bus drivers. All of these extracurricular events are being used Worcester bus drivers, not our own. That I'd like you to look into too, and I believe our bus drivers should be afforded that if they're available, especially this Saturday. You can't tell me none of our bus drivers were available to drive the track team to the districts. So that's an issue. Real craw in my hat, and I don't know where I'll stand once I start leaving here when this new contract comes up, but this is the first time we've really, in my opinion, have had, they might seem minor, but problems persistently with a bus company. Signage, Mr. Superintendent. Should I go in deeper, or what can you tell me?
The signage is on hold until the ground becomes a little more malleable to put a sign in. We will be having, you're talking external signs?
Any kind of signage to that building.
Mr. Matthew and myself have to meet with Mr. Donay. We will do that as soon as we can to discuss placement and signage. It may have to wait another month or two to actually be in, but...
Well, respectfully, I disagree with you, sir. I was out in my own yard yesterday. There's no frost in the ground this year. I drove steel re-rods right in without any problem at all with a hand hammer, not even a sledgehammer. I think we're being put off, and I don't like it.
You are not being put off. I will have that meeting with Mr. Donay and Mr. Matthew as soon as we can. Quite frankly, we've had other things that have taken priority and precedent. We will get to that meeting just as soon as we can, Mr. Peterson.
Well, I think you've had quite a bit of time, and I'll let it go at that. I know there are pressing things in priority, but there are pressing things for our parents and things to find us, too, at the same point in time, so thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, I request a letter of surplus to Signey Street building. Has that been done? Has it been sent to the selectmen that we are no longer want care or custody of that building?
I had a conversation with Donna Folio, and I informed her of the vote. She didn't say she needed anything in writing, but we can put something together for her, no problem.
That was my
That's
request,
fine,
and it
sure.
was moved and voted such.
Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you. I believe that's it for tonight.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. I just have a couple of quick things. I've said enough tonight. But I am interested if we could have, and this is not something that is in need right now urgently or anything, but I would like some information, and I know that Mr. Trahan can put his hands on this, but I'm very interested on the cost of the iPad versus our textbooks. Knowing that our textbooks are about $100 a piece, I believe it is, I'm kind of curious just to see what something like that would, I'm not saying we're going to go buy them, nothing like that, but I just would like to see if children have 4 or 5 textbooks, that's $500 worth of books on their back, literally. So what would be the difference, and how would something like that be worked out when it does hopefully come down the line at some point? I would like to comment, if I could, on the 3-day no-name calling event that was held here in the district. I would like letters of thanks to go out to State Rep Frost and State Rep Fatman that joined us on the last day of the anti-bullying no-name calling event. They stayed for the play, which I thought was excellent. And we did get a very nice thank you from our chief of police, who was impressed by the whole event and thought it was great. So I would like, and actually I would like a thank you to go to our chief also for attending the program with Mr. Peterson and I and the rest of the committee, and the anti-bullying committee that was in attendance. The whole, it sounds like the 3 days went off very well. I think the thumbprints are still up in the foyer, where everyone got to make an imprint of their thumbprint, that kind of saying that, you know, they're not going to do any name calling. And one of the things that I just wanted to share that they did that day is they sold flowers. And if you bought a flower, say I bought a flower and I gave it to Mrs. Ravelli, it meant that she and I, if we had any words in the past, we had a clean slate. And I thought that was an excellent, excellent idea. So there were a lot of roses going around, and it was very, very nice. And actually, one of the students that's on the committee bought a rose for his mom and said, you know, sorry for everything I said, Mom, in the past. Clean slate today. So I really thought that was great. So I would like I'd like a motion, if I could, please, to send those three. Thank you. Those 3 thank you letters. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Call for the vote, please.
Yes.
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 Yes, 4 affirmative, 1 absent. Thank you very much. And that's all I have this evening. I will open the floor for any comments or questions, and I will now close it. All right, we will have a motion to adjourn. We will not have any executive session this evening.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Call for the vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, we are all adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming in. We appreciate your support. Could you pass that down, Alan?